Greetings, children of the screen. Your friendly neighborhood nerd scum here once again, and today I'm joined by...
Beathania. I'm an actress and model. Yeah.
Yeah,
and I love movies.
Absolutely. We've been talking a lot about movies here today. I initially met her at the premiere for Vice Mayors, where she interviewed me and some of the other cast, and she's an actress in her own right. In the description, the links to all of her, social media and stuff will be there. But anyway, hey, are you ready to watch a fucked up movie?
Yeah!
Yeah, let's watch a fucked up movie. It's gonna be cool. Tetsuo The Iron Man was originally released in 1989 with a runtime of 1 hour and 7 minutes. It's classified as horror, sci-fi, or cyberpunk, and on Rotten Tomatoes it comes in with a rating of 83% on the tomato meter and 76% on the popcorn meter. Directed by Shinya Tatsumoto?
Is that how you say it?
I mean, that's how it's... Fuck it. You do the thing. You do the thing.
Okay. What is it? Shinya Tsukamoto. And then it's also starring, let me see, Tomoro Taguchi, Ki Fujiwara, and Nobu let's see. Ooh, that one might beat my ass. Can I swear?
You can swear all you want. You can say anything that you want, and as long as YouTube doesn't delete my video or channel, I will put it in the video.
Nobu Kanaoka? Kanaoka? I wouldn't know where the inflection would go, but yeah. Shinya Tsukamoto, by the way.
Yeah.
I could say it's probably that.
Hey, that's better than I could have done. Anyway, as we know, it's the ongoing battle of trying to overcome my whiteness, so thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't think that would be a thing that we'd address in this video, but here we are. Anyway, hey, why don't we look at the plot of the movie?
Sure.
Okay. A businessman accidentally kills the metal fetishist, who gets his revenge by slowly turning the man into a grotesque hybrid of flesh and rusty metal. I guess that's kind of what happens, but not...
It feels like it's that's saying that's like a dependent clause of what it is, you know?
Yeah.
It's like half of the whole thing, I feel like.
Even though I know this wasn't written by AI, it feels like AI took the actual plot and boiled it down into a sixth of what the story is.
Yeah.
And using other movies as its marker, tried to determine what the plot elements that were important were.
Right.
Because technically, to some level, all those things are the plot.
Yeah.
But not necessarily from that motivation.
Right.
And not necessarily in that order.
Yeah, definitely not in that order.
Because do you want me to?
I feel like you should do it. I feel like
Okay. So boiling it down, but not as much as IMDb does.
Yeah.
Yes. A business salaryman hits a person who happens to be a metal fetishist. We're not judging.
Just happen. Yeah.
With his car, and him and his wife think they kill him. They throw him in a ravine. His wife gets horny and fucks him, while they overlook what they think is a dead body. This is also after the guy put a piece of rebar into a very vagina-shaped wound on his leg. He is a metal fetishist. No judgment. We're just stating this is what happens. After that, slowly the salaryman starts to transform, because one day he cuts himself, the next day he cuts himself with his razor, And from that, then he starts forming like an exoskeleton that's like made out of metal and like protrusions coming from him and stuff. And the metal fetishist is also transforming, but like at a slower rate. And he is rusty and kind of more decayed, and you can tell because he's got goth makeup, and he's all like, ooh,
Yeah.
he's all like Count Orlok and shit,
Yeah.
you know? And then, like, eventually they start actually facing off, and once they merge, then yes, like, the rust component of the metal fetishist starts to infect him, but, like, that wasn't really... I mean, it's a plan eventually, but it's not the plot. That's just the thing that happens in the climax before they become a giant penis float that is just wielding around a city in Japan, shooting off, like, white bullet loads. There's some subtext in this movie.
It's a really good movie.
Yeah, it,
awesome.
it
It
really
rocks,
fucking
yeah.
is. Yeah.
It rocks.
So yeah, like, clearly the movie is an experience, and clearly we both enjoyed it on a lot of levels.
Yeah.
What's maybe 2 or 3 things about the movie that you could pick out that really made you enjoy it?
So I just liked it from the beginning because it was just like the first thing that like really I was gonna say caught my eye, but it was the music, and that didn't like catch my eye, but like I liked how it just sounded exactly like it was literally just metal clanking, but it was still musical. That was like one of the first things I noticed that I really liked. There's a lot that I like in this movie. Like I liked the scene when he had like that dream about his wife, but I don't like it's a cool scene. There isn't much for me to say. It just like makes me look like a pervert for enjoying it.
No,
but,
I mean, like,
I just think it looked cool, but
I mean, my audience is here for that.
Okay.
Remember what I told you about the Christmas video I did?
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
like, you can say whatever you want on this channel.
Okay.
As long as you're not worried about, like, getting canceled or something, you know.
No, I just really liked it. I just didn't want to get like psychoanalyzed for like what it's like why that scene.
It's a great scene.
Yeah, it's dope.
I'm not into that kind of thing at all, and it's a fucking amazing scene where I'm like, I don't know, maybe I should consider it. I don't know. It's like the scene in Deadpool, except serious. And yeah, the music, like you were saying, like, it's fucking awesome. It is literal industrial music, where it is literally made from just like metal clanking and machinery, and every now and then an instrument to like emphasize emotion.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are amazing things. Did you have something else?
Yeah. So I liked also just the like stop motion, like in general. I mostly liked it in like the transitioning scenes of like when he's like outside and like walking and stuff. I did like it when like I think I actually liked it most when his wife was transforming into like that like horny like beast lady. I thought that was actually, because I didn't realize that scene was coming, but that became my favorite stop motion scene. I liked like the like sound effects that they had at certain points, because it like the more cartoony, like the absurdity I liked because it was cartoony absurdity, and so it made it just enjoyable and funny in some ways, so you weren't just like, why am I watching like softcore porn?
Right. Like,
know?
It could have very easily been like the cyberpunk version of like a Serbian film.
Right.
Where it's like, oh, I love David Cronenberg and I love Serbian film, so let's make the most fucked up thing possible. Luckily, Serbian film didn't exist at the time. I know you're gonna say it in the comments. Just give me a second. I'm getting to a point here. The point is that, like, yeah, you're right. It's cartoony in the same way that, like, extreme, like, edgelord manga is.
Right.
Where, like, they amp it up to a certain level where it's just, even though what they're dealing with is disturbing and it's, like, complex, they still amp it up to a level where, like, it's just absurd enough for you to kind of be like, Oh, fuck!
Yeah.
That's nuts. As opposed to actually being, like, traumatized by what you're seeing.
Right, because we were laughing, like, during, like, what is, like, his metal penis just, like, spinning.
Yeah, his
like,
drill cock just, like, pops through the table. As he's watching his wife's lips as she's eating noodles, like these tiny wire-like phallic symbols, and his drill cock just goes, boom, and they're both just like, oh, and you can just almost see like the manga anime lines like around them, just where they're like, oh my god, expression. It's very over the top, but also feels like emotionally authentic on like a base level, where it's like, no, it's funny to watch that because it's an absurd situation, but yeah, if that were to happen, that's probably how you'd react.
Right. No, I'd be so calm. I'd be just minding my business. I would be in my own lane.
Dear, could you put your drill cock away?
I'm trying to have dinner.
We already had a really, like, weird sex scene, like, twice now. Could you please put your drill cock away and just let me eat my lo mein?
She's like, not again. Like, I just...
Every day, it's just drill cock, drill cock, drill cock. It's like, you know I'm a person, right? Like, we can have conversations. He's like, yeah, but I have a drill cock. I feel like we might have gotten off point here. But the point is, it's a fucking weird, obscure, like, movie that you're very much right. Like, the way it balances, like, very sincere and, like, human elements with the way that it, like, pushes those things to just enough of an extreme to let you disassociate enough for the movie to not fuck you up forever.
Right.
Is really well done, especially for a director who had not made a lot up until this point.
Yeah.
Right on. So those are, like, some really solid things. It's hard for me to pick just a couple of things that I love about the movie. But yes, like you were saying, the stop motion sequences are fucking amazing. And the fact that it is a mix of, like, miniatures and puppets and live action people and makeup effects that are all coming together gives it a really unique feel that you only get from, like, I don't know, maybe like Mad God, which is like an amazing stop motion movie that came out a couple of years ago. We'll talk about it. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't. It's
fucking great. It's by Phil Tippett, who did all the stop motion for the original Star Wars trilogy and stuff like that. So, like, it's fucked up and amazing. It's good. Anyway, but no, yeah, the way they mix those things together is some of my favorite stuff. Because, yeah, it's like, somehow, by distorting the reality around these characters, it makes it easier to get to their emotional core within a scene.
Yeah.
So when you see one of these stop-motion scenes, it feels very primal. Where, like, you could literally mute it without the music, without the sound effects, and just look at the imagery, and you would know exactly what these characters are feeling and experiencing. And a lot of times, those sequences, especially where, like, the metal fetishists are concerned, and as well as the businessman, it's just like one of those things where when you're in those moments and you're seeing those transformations, they perfectly illustrate the internal, like, struggle and turmoil of those characters, both trying to, like, understand and come to terms with what they're becoming.
Yeah.
And he's a relatively young director who's only done a few things, and it almost feels like watching, like, the original Evil Dead or something like that, where it's just like, you see this young person who has a lot of creativity, and they don't really know what they're doing, but they know what they want to do, and they know what they want you to feel, and they're doing everything they can to try to make that happen.
Yeah.
And even without the polish of something bigger, like a bigger movie or a bigger budget, like, those things matter when you watch them. And it just so happens that with this movie, because it's in black and white, because it's in the kind of film grain that it's in, and all those kind of things, it diminishes the mistakes. It makes it all the mistakes, like all the things that you would normally say, hey, that's not good filmmaking. It's like, no, that's just part of the weird fucking style.
Yeah.
You know? Because all those other things that are done well are done so fucking well that all the other stuff, you're just kind of, your brain accepts it as like, no, that's just what the movie is.
Yeah. It's like, that's kind of why I like older movies, because the limitations like can also be an advantage in a way. Like the sex scene where it's like obviously like the sex scene wasn't the most realistic sex scene ever,
Right.
but that's not the point. Like it was just because it was in black and white. It was just certain you can only see certain parts of their face, certain parts of their body, and then just the way that at the same time they also kind of like, at least to me, in a way they kind of blended together, and then like it felt like sometimes they blended together, sometimes they were apart, as if, which kind of like to me is makes like sex in a metaphorical way like make more sense than just having
Yeah.
straight sex on your screen, you know?
Yeah, and also like it at another like another level to that, it's like we're at a pivotal turning point in their relationship where like the idea of them coming together and separating and the things that draw them apart and put them together are more on display. You get a scene that basically turns that into the most primal like visualization or emotionalization of that when it comes to like two people and their need for each other as well as their desire to maybe not be with each other, you know? So yeah, again, yeah, the black and white stuff really makes things that might in other movies feel trite or trivial. It makes them feel like they're more interwoven to other aspects. Where, like, I feel like if you were to watch this movie in color, which, like, the sequels have color, and sometimes the visuals in them work really, really well. And sometimes the visuals in them, you're like, everything just looks blue and it doesn't look like it really fits the style or tone of everything else you're doing. But recently, I literally, when I got this box set from this director, I watched all three movies and I turned the color on my TV off and watched all of them in black and white. And the second two were better in black and white because the style that he has cultivated for this story and for this franchise, like just that heavy contrast just seems to work better, you know?
Yeah.
It's just one of those things about like the way that we as an audience perceive media, and when things are in black and white, it changes our perspective of how we like interact with it. And in a way, like our minds automatically, we see black and white and we're like, oh, this is old, so it's simple.
Yeah.
So we kind of, in our minds, allow a movie to reduce things down to like a simpler, more baseline level, and we don't judge it the way we would like a modern movie. And that's, again, one of those things that's just very interesting, and I'm not sure if it's like specifically something that the director did on purpose, or if it's one of those things where like, no, it just worked out that way.
I feel like it might be the latter.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can go into depth. Like,
no, and again, like, despite the fact I've watched commentary on this movie and stuff like that, it's not something that's really addressed. I think it's something more that, like, as a lover of film and a filmmaker myself, I look at and I'm like, no, this is the effect that this has on an audience. And could he have engineered that knowing what he knew? Or could he subconsciously have done it because that's what it did to him as a person?
Right.
And then he just shared that with the world. There's like a lot of stuff to love and speculate on in this film.
Yeah.
And I've definitely shown this film to a few people, and different aspects of it work or don't for various people.
Yeah.
So we already talked about some stuff that you really liked that worked for you. Is there anything in the film that didn't necessarily work for you?
That's the thing, is like there's one thing, but then again it didn't even bother me that much to it where it like really affected my viewing experience. I think I just had a hard time following the story, and the only reason I was able to follow the story was because I had so much like context, because like this is like a cult classic film, so I had like a general like idea, and then also like I've read the synopsis, like I've heard the synopsis before, so it was easy to follow. But I really think if I just watched this like completely blind, like without even knowing like what, like nothing at all, I think I probably would have just, I would have still liked it because it's like visually and aesthetically beautiful, but I think I would just have a hard time like connecting with the themes, and I would just not I didn't enjoy it to the full experience. I feel like
That's definitely fair. It is intended to be a more like impressionistic and surrealistic experience,
mm-hmm.
and watching it with someone who's watched it as much as I have, where I have the context, and where there's a lot of things I didn't say while we were watching the movie, but where there were places where I felt like it was important for the narrative or the story, and it was things that I knew for a fact, I made sure to mention them.
Yeah.
Because, again, those are things that are there in the film, but because the film is so crazy, you kind of have to watch it a few times to really, like, hone in on those moments. Be like, oh, no. In all this dialogue, like, these lines are what tells you what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of it is kind of, like, poetic, philosophical, like, almost like grandizing from, like, people who are not within their right mind in the moment, because they're going through, like, a state of, like, crisis or, like, detrimental or at least painful change. The movie focuses a lot more on emotions than narrative, so it's very easy for the narrative to get lost in there.
Yeah.
If you go in with no context and without someone who has context,
it
took me like 4 more times of watching it before I was like, no, I know what this movie is.
Right.
And even now I might be wrong.
You just have to watch it again and make another video.
Yeah. Like in another 4 years, I'll do it again.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, well, I'm older now and wiser now, and this whole movie is about the scene where the man dreams about his wife fucking him in the ass with a robot penis.
That's all. No depth.
No, there's no subtext.
It was the director trying to tell his wife that he wants to get pegged, but without having, like, trying to go over having the awkward conversation about it.
Right.
So he just goes through the lengths of, like, making the movie, spending a bunch of money, and then editing it, and then having it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
Yeah. Don't look too much into it.
So, yeah, like, those are good points, and obviously it's, again, one of those things where, like, depending on who you are, your perspective, and when you see the movie and who you see the movie with, it might vary in your interpretation. Mm-hmm. Which, like, with some works of art, that really irritates me. But that's normally when it's someone like fucking Paul W.S. Anderson, who's just like, oh no, what do you think happened? Because they don't know what the fuck happened. They shot 6 different endings to their movie, and then let, like, a test screening audience pick which one was going to be the end of the movie. Right. But in movies like this, like, it's very clear that even if the director didn't know what they were trying to say, they had a vision and they executed that vision.
Right.
And in general, that works for me. But at the same time, there are implications that come with some of the ideas that are expressed in this movie where you're just like, is that what they're trying to say? And it's like, I don't know. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, you know, because it's, again, I love this movie. Since I initially watched it, I've watched it multiple times. It's become one of my favorite films. And in the course of that, like, I've really started to dissect it, both, like, on every level. And at one point I'm like, so this movie is clearly, like, a metaphor for repressed homosexuality. Mm-hmm. But then I'm also like, but at the same time, given when the movie came out, when that's not a subject, especially where the movie's made, that's really being explored, maybe also even that level of it is a kind of amalgamation of other social issues that mirror it. And then you're going through it and you're like, yeah, but, like, what is that? Like, okay, but, like, the why, again, I keep mentioning it, we both keep mentioning it because it's a great scene. But the scene where his wife fucks him with a robot penis, like, what does that scene mean? And you can literally dissect it for days or weeks, and you can come up with 1,000 different theories. And the director is never gonna fucking tell you. And you're like, yeah, but which one fucking is it, dude? Like, what am I supposed to take away from this? Am I supposed to want to get fucked in the ass with robot penis? Or am I supposed to understand that, like, kinks and sexuality are fluid, and that it embracing that as a painful aspect of human existence that you have to do to come into your being. But then, like, they say that their love, he and the metal fetishist eventually become one, which is clearly like a homoerotic like love story that comes from a place of self-hatred. And it's like, I can't even unpack that because I'm a straight guy, so I don't even know how to deal with that stuff. It's like, I respect it and I understand it, and I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. But like, I don't know, like, I can't speak to that, okay? Like, I don't know what to do with that. And then he's a giant penis, like, fucking float from, like, the fucking Sears Thanksgiving parade or whatever, floating down the fucking street, shooting stuff. And I'm just like, but, like, they say their love's gonna destroy the world, but is that, like, a post-apocalyptic thing where they're gonna do all this stuff? Or does it mean they're gonna, like, what's going on? And you're just like, maybe I should just stop thinking about it and enjoy the movie I just watched and have a drink. And you're like, that's probably better, because you're going to drive yourself fucking insane trying to figure out what this, like, brilliant, crazy dude did 20 years ago.
I think the movie's doing what it's supposed to right here. This, like, crisis that you're having.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
And that's the thing. The things I don't like about the movie are what the movie is supposed to fucking be. Like, there's not supposed to be answers. It's supposed to be a movie that gives you a legitimate experience. And a surreal experience that takes you outside of yourself enough to make you think about the context and to make you examine these issues. Which, if you actually go back and rewatch what I just said, all those things are issues that were very prevalent in the society of the culture that this film was spawned from at the time. So, whether they were intended or not, they're clearly in there, and there is value in that and artistic merit. So it's like, even the things that I don't like about this movie are why I like this movie.
Mm-hmm. It takes you and it breaks you down and builds you back up like a robot.
Or an Iron Man, but not like a sexy alcoholic Tony Stark, like David Cronenberg, vagina, stomach,
yeah.
gun hand, thing, and Jeff Goldblum because he's hot too. I don't know how to end this segment.
Take away Jeff Goldblum is hot.
Granddad vibes? Okay. So, obviously, we kind of enjoyed this movie, but what's your final takeaway? Like, in terms of your very first viewing, obviously it's a movie, as we've discussed, that the more you view it, the more engaged you become. But on your first viewing, for the people who've never watched it before, what would you say?
Well, the first thought I had once the credits rolled and we turned the lights on was, that was the longest post-punk music video I've ever seen.
She said that. Literally.
I did say that.
She said that, and she's not fucking wrong. Like, yeah. I would say that there is a lot of elements of music videos that are taken and incorporated into the style of this film.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of music videos that have used things that are established in the style of this film.
Yeah.
In order, like, dude, just look at the first 10 years of Nine Inch Nails music videos and correlate when this movie comes out with when they start making music videos that stylistically look exactly like this, except for the stop motion.
Right.
Because Americans were like, no, we're not doing stop motion anymore. But no, there's tons of videos that if you look at the early 90s, where like music videos clearly took what this movie did and was like, yes, that's how I want people to feel about my band. So that's a perfectly valid like takeaway for your very first viewing.
Yeah, and I meant that with love too. Like it was like a positive in
Yeah.
parentheses. Yeah.
It's not like, oh, it's like a music video, because there are people who would criticize some movies. I might have criticized some movies, like the McG Charlie's Angels movie, as that. But that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is that, like, this exemplifies the expressionistic style that makes those videos work.
Yeah.
And it manages to, like, put it in a feature film format that also gives you the same kind of emotional and visceral connection that a lot of those songs give you.
Yeah, it was groundbreaking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
There are very few films, like, I can name on, like, one hand the films that, like, affect me in the same way this film does. My final takeaway on the film is that Tetsuo the Iron Man is not like anything else. It is a beautiful mix of expressionism, freaking stop motion animation stylism. It is got like just heaps of cyberpunk that are like buried under this like drab, lived in post apocalyptic feel that is like a blend between like what we think of as the post apocalypse and what we see in Star Wars, where it's just like, no, like it's not post apocalypse in the sense that everything's completely falling apart. It's that all of this has been around for long enough that it's all in decay. It's all been used, it's all worn. It's a world that's drab and is confining our characters into these tight little boxes that they have to break out of.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of style and world building, that is really special within the context of what this movie does. And all the questions that it brings up aren't really answerable. Like,
Right.
even from someone who's watched the movie like 30 plus fucking times, like I have, where like every time I watch the movie, I see something new and I'm presented with new questions. And I never have the answers to those questions, and it never diminishes what the movie is.
Mm-hmm.
Because the movie is there not as a narrative, but as a work of art that is supposed to confront what it is to be human and what it is to change with the times. And in that respect, it is a masterpiece from someone who wasn't a master at the time. Like, if you watch this director's films later on, the way that he encompasses the human condition is so special and so unique. And you can see the beginnings of it all here. And it's just, again, I think I mentioned to you earlier, it's like watching Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2, if we're being honest, versus watching A Simple Plan or like Spider-Man 2 for Sam Raimi.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like you see everything this person has to offer on every level presented at the level they were able to offer it at the time.
Yeah.
And it's not like the full experience of their creative output and what they're capable of, but it is so powerful that you're like, I need to see more.
I agree. Yeah.
So having said that, I definitely recommend this movie to maybe not anyone, but like, if you've watched this far in the video and you're still engaged and you haven't seen this movie, you should have stopped watching this video 10 minutes ago and started looking for this movie to watch. I will have links for wherever it's available on streaming. Last I checked, it's available on YouTube for fucking free. Because it's black and white, so it gets past all the censorship things that are on YouTube. So it's like literally all the clips you've seen in this video, I took from YouTube. Fuck you, YouTube. Anyway, having said that, for my guess, would you recommend this movie?
Yes. I want you to watch this movie. Get it? Like the poster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was very powerful and
thank you.
hot.
I like what you were saying, like the audience to watch it. I think that like if you are someone who is trying to actively watch movies, like if you're someone who is in like like, you know, like a film buff, like this is something that you should check off your list, because I think anyone who just casually watches movies probably wouldn't like enjoy it. I was gonna say not like it, but I think there's something to like out of the movie just in general. But I feel like they wouldn't enjoy it too. Like, you don't get the full enjoyment. I feel like if you're someone who really enjoys movies, as in watching other people's work, because like you said, it's like an art piece practically. This is a great movie to watch.
Yeah, at the end of the day, all art should be an experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I look for most in anything. Whether I'm watching a great movie or a shitty movie.
Yeah.
Whether I'm reading a good comic book or a bad comic book, looking at a good painting or a bad painting, listening to great music or listening to music that is so simplistically stupid that it's hilarious. I just want a real experience. And wherever you sit on the spectrum, whether you love it or hate it, at the end of it, this movie will give you a real experience that is worthwhile. Because the thing about art that creates experiences is that no matter what you do, no matter who you are, it manages to affect and change you in some way. So whether you hate this movie, you will probably become more of the version of you that you already are.
Yeah.
And if you love this movie, maybe it will help you see past the way you see yourself or the way you see the world and help you become the person that you want to be.
Yeah.
So no, like on either side of it, whether you love it or hate it, it's an experience that I do feel is worth having at least once. Because like Taylor, who watched the movie with me before, I asked her if she wanted to be in this video, and she said, once is good enough for me. And she didn't hate the movie. She's just like, I think I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fair.
It is a lot, but
yeah.
That's not necessarily a bad thing. Or
yeah.
a good thing. It is what it is. It's a lot.
Not everybody is prepared for drill cocks and robot penises pegging married salary men.
Yeah.
But it's pretty fun if you just like go with it.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is the way a lot of pegging conversations start. So anyway, transition. Once again, children on the screen, thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, definitely subscribe so you can check out all the cool stuff I got going on. If you don't like the video, like the video. Leave a comment on the video. Do all the things that the YouTube algorithm demands that you do in order to make me matter in this universe. But also, thank you very much to my guest for being on the show today. Is there anything you'd like to plug in terms of social media or projects that you have upcoming?
I mostly have I'm mostly active on my Instagram right now, which is Beathania, so Bae, B-A-E, and then Thania. And then if you want to see more movie reviews, I just right now have a Letterboxd, but it's like if you want to see me about like in depth or just being really funny, if you just want to know what I watched, because I watch a lot of movies. It's Gamhora. It's Gamwhora. So yeah, that's my stuff.
Right on. And like all the links for those are in the description below. If you'd like to see more of her, just drop down there and check it out. It's going to be available for you. And finally, thank you very much for watching. I know this has been an ordeal. For some of you, you will never be the same. Because you will watch this movie and it will live with you forever. Because you like robot penis.
And that's okay. This movie says that's okay.
No judgment here. You can like whatever you want to like. Be whatever you want to be. Just don't destroy the whole world. Instead, just become a giant penis-shaped float that takes over a city. Okay? that's the best any of us can hope for, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, thank you very much. I hope you guys have a good one. Nerd Scum, out.